Hey guys, it's Tim Miller from the Bulwark. We got new polls out from Fox News that show huge progress for Kamala Harris as compared to how Joe Biden was polling in four key Sunbelt states: Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, and North Carolina.
She is ahead of the former president in three of our four new battleground state polls.
Let's look at the numbers and kind of break down what we've learned here. Top line numbers: Harris is winning by 2 in Georgia and Nevada, winning by 1 in Arizona, and down by 1 in North Carolina. So combined in all the four states, she's up by 1, pretty close, all within the margin of error. But outside of the margin of error is the movement from the last Fox polls, which were tested when Biden was at the top of the ticket. In those polls, Trump was winning by 5 in North Carolina, Arizona, and Nevada, and by 6 in Georgia. So the biggest swing has been in Georgia, from down 6 to +2, an 8-point swing for Harris. This is notable because all of these states are important, but you don't need to win all of them. And Georgia, you would be the most important because it has the most electoral votes, and winning Georgia would block Trump's easiest path to victory, which is winning all of the states that he won in 2020, and then just adding Georgia and Pennsylvania. If you look at his ads, clearly that is his ad spending. Clearly that's what the Trump team has in mind. They're trying to do, kind of this inside straight where they re-win all the ones they won in 2020, add Georgia and Pennsylvania. So if Harris could win Georgia, that blocks that and makes Trump's path much, much more complicated. Requires him to win some of those Rust Belt states. So a couple other things that are interesting in this poll. The big thing I want you to wait for is what is happening down ballot with the Democrats down ballot. But before we get to that, I just want to focus here on some other things that we learned in this poll. The best news for Harris is that she has basically already matched the Biden number among white voters in these states. So I think there was some concern that there's going to be a group of older white voters that maybe was less comfortable with her, maybe some latent racism, misogyny, maybe just Biden was more their cup of tea, more their style of politics. Not a lot of evidence of that in this poll. The other good news is she has a big lead among Hispanics, about 14 points. There had been concern that Trump was gaining ground in this demo. No evidence of that in these four polls. She still has lost some altitude with black voters. She's doing better than Biden was doing in those polls. She's gained a lot of the vote back from black voters. Right now, she's about 79%, which is a huge number. But you're really trying to be up closer to 90% if you're a Democrat. So that's something to monitor. That could just be noisy when you look at these crosstabs. Like, there's a much bigger margin for error for each of these demos. But I guess that would be the one demographic group that you'd want to flag. And I think it kind of explains what's happening in North Carolina, where she's still losing, where you have to run up much bigger numbers of black voters in North Carolina, and then much bigger numbers with college educated whites, since there's fewer of them in that state than there are in the other states. There's more Trump voters, more non-college whites. So that's kind of the demographic breakdown. One thing to look at that would be the flag, the concern, if you will, for Harris. That is the poll number when it comes to who do you trust in the economy. Right now, Trump 53, Harris 45 across the four states. The more concerning thing when you look at that is when you ask people what their top issue is, economy is number one by far. So that explains the ad. We did an ad review of the most recent Harris ad coming out of the convention, which was laser focused on the economy, dealing with the people's concerns about costs, talking about how we need to build more housing and address housing, and contrasting herself with Donald Trump, whose agenda is focused on helping the richest people in the country. We assumed this when we saw the ad, but more evidence now that they're seeing in the polls, some of their weakness, some of the slack among voters who are just really concerned about the economy and have this nostalgic positive memory for the pre-COVID economy and give credit to Trump for that. That's BS. It's not fair. That's some turf that Kamala's going to have to fight on, make the case, and make this contrast about caring about the middle class, strengthening the middle class versus Donald Trump, who wants to care about the wealthiest. So I expect you'll see more of that from the Harris Walz campaign. So across a bunch of other issues, Harris has the advantage: healthcare, of course, abortion. On some of these character issues, who's more likely to unite the country, who's fighting for people like you, who wants to bring needed change. Harris winning on all of those. All right. Now onto the most interesting element of these polls for me. What is happening in the down ballot races? In Arizona, where remember Harris is winning by 1 point only, 50-49, Ruben Gallego, the Democrat running for senator against Kari Lake, is up by 15. On the ballot, Gallego only has 1 point more than Harris. This is really a lot of these voters that are in Trump's camp that aren't going along with the other Republicans. You're seeing this across the board. But in these other states, that the differential is even bigger. In Nevada, you got Jackie Rosen, a Democratic incumbent senator, winning 55-41 against a pretty weak Republican candidate in that state. But that said, again, you look at Harris; she's at 50-48 for Trump. That's interesting. Rosen's at 55, Harris is at 50. That tells me there's room to grow for Harris. There are people that responded to this poll saying that they are for Trump and for Rosen. Obviously, those seem like very gettable voters. That is an illogical combo. I'm not one of these people who doesn't think that there's split ticket voting. A lot of times there's logical split ticket voting. You see it. We talked a lot about Georgia, about the Kemp Warnock voters. Herschel Walker was just too crazy, made sense. In a weird way, kind of like a Fetterman Trump crossover voter makes sense. Like you can kind of imagine who that person is. Jackie Rosen is just a generic Democrat. Who is the Jackie Rosen Trump voter? I don't see that. So that's encouraging, I think, to see her at 55. Then in North Carolina, you have Josh Stein, the Democrat running for governor. He's at 54 against Mark Robinson, the absolute lunatic running the Republicans nominated in that state, who's like maybe even crazier than Trump, if that's possible. He's now down 11. That makes a little bit more sense. You can imagine some Stein Trump voters, because these people are just Republicans who look at Mark Robinson and say, we can't have a governor that is like this person. He just believes too much crazy stuff and he's too far right on social issues. We talked about this, how there's some voters who have a misperception of Trump as not being that extreme on cultural issues, whereas Robinson isn't even hiding the ball on that. So even still, though, to see Stein at 54, Kamala down 1, Stein plus 11, again, room to grow. So to me, the most encouraging thing about these polls is how the Democrats are doing down ballot, which shows that Kamala has more voters that are gettable for her. So if you put that together with positive momentum from Biden to Kamala, notable, particularly in Georgia, 8-point swing in the Fox poll, and then you see that there's still potential room to run because other Democrats have even better ballot numbers than she does. That is all in all pretty encouraging. I mean, don't get it wrong. I'm still wearing my diapers over here. Only being up by 1 point in Arizona and 2 points in Georgia. I'm not sleeping easy yet, but it is positive. It's positive direction, and we'll keep looking. It'll be interesting. Wednesday, I always said that Wednesday, the 28th, was really the first day that we'd see polls that gave you a full picture of the race post convention. Just to be a good pollster takes 3 days. You don't want to poll on the weekends. So this Fox poll is really the first poll that shows us that it gives us a good look at where things stand right now. And where they stand right now is a narrow lead for Kamala Harris. All right, subscribe to the feed. Thanks for sticking with us all week. We'll be back. If there's new updates, new news, new polls, new ads, you know where to find us, right here on the Bulwark YouTube page.